Hi, my name's Sheila Harrell. I'm a health promoter at Church Health, and I'm so excited to talk to you today about this module on health promotion and how it relates to faith community nursing practice. As you've already heard some of the definitions of health, it includes physical, emotional, it includes having an enjoyable environment, having good social interactions. But you also want to think about your congregations. Do they have safe neighborhoods that they can walk in? Do they have access to healthy food, or are they living in a food desert? So looking at the body, mind, spirit, really that whole concept is what Church Health bases our concept of health on. Not just the absence of disease, but how we can tap into our resources and be resilient during difficult times. So I have a question for you now. What is your personal definition of health?
So my personal definition of health includes not only the absence of disease, but also the ability to seek out or to find happiness and joy in our daily lives. So for me, that means sharing a meal with loved ones and family and really being present with them.
My personal definition of health has to do with balance. You know, how do you balance your food and your emotions and your spiritual life in a way that makes you a full person.
Okay, my name is Danetta, and I am so excited about my weight loss journey. I have lost 55 pounds, and the things that I've been doing is just walking 3 to 4 times a week. I cut out fast foods. I started cooking and meal prepping, and it has worked out for me, and I'm 4 to 5 dress sizes smaller now, so super excited. Yay me.
Yeah, what I'm certain of is that health is not about the absence of disease. It is about helping people achieve the life well lived. You know, here at Church Health, what that means is not about giving people more pills, but asking the question, what does it mean to have more joy in your life, having more love in your life, and being driven closer to God? And if those things aren't happening, then what's the point? Who really cares if you live 2 years longer, if it means 2 years longer in a nursing home? Life for life's sake, that doesn't make any sense. Breathe it in, breathe it out. None of us are signing up for that. So it has to be about joy, love, and being driven closer to God, which is exactly why faith community nursing makes so much sense.
Hi, it's Sheila Harrell again, and as a health promoter at Church Health, this is just one of the tools I use for our staff health program. So as a key to promoting health, we capture biometric data, so staff each year know what their biometric data is, and then we review whether they're in range or out of range with their biometric data. Another piece that they use as a self-assessment is the Model for Healthy Living. And you should all have a copy of this form to review for yourselves. But with the Model for Healthy Living, as you can see, we have different components, different pieces of the pie. So we have the faith component, which is building a strong relationship with God and others. So it can look different ways for different people. But what they do is they rate if they're a 1, which is unsatisfied, all the way to a 10, which is satisfied. So they do a self-assessment to see how satisfied they are in each category. The next category is movement, if they enjoy the physical activity, because really the key to maintaining physical activity is doing something you enjoy. With the medical piece, are they partnered with a healthcare provider? And of course at Church Health, this is something that we reach out into the community to help those that are working uninsured to make sure they're connected with a healthcare provider. And they not only get a healthcare provider, they get a health coach, and then we have optometry, we have mental health, we have a place to exercise, we have healthy cooking classes. So we really fit in all these pieces together. So the next piece on here would be the work piece. Are they fulfilled in what they're doing? Sometimes with life, we have to take a job or a position just to provide for our physical needs or our families, and it might not be so fulfilling. But helping them to think outside of the box a little bit. Are there places where they can donate their time? Is there something that they're passionate about? Is it art? Is it volunteering? Is it working with children? Maybe you could plug them into the congregation with some of their gifts, talents, and abilities so that they feel more fulfilled. The work piece is not just about work, but it's about, I'm here for a reason. Am I fulfilling my reason to be here, the reason that God put me here? So helping them to look at that. The next piece is emotional stress management, which we all experience stress in life. But finding out where they are on, am I satisfied and am I unsatisfied with my emotional health? And then building from there some small goals. How can we address your stress? What would help with that? Do they need counseling? Would they benefit from meeting with the pastor? So thinking about some small goals that would help them to feel better about their overall emotional health. Nutrition, and this is about how they consider their nutrition themselves. It's making good food choices and developing healthy eating habits. So one thing that we have at Church Health is healthy cooking classes. And you can maybe think about something like that at your congregation. It doesn't have to be quite as detailed. It could be as simple as maybe, let's do a healthy potluck and everyone bring their recipe. We'll share all those recipes together and create a healthy cookbook for our congregation. It could be very simplistic. It could be, you could create a book for your congregation if you want to go to all the detail for that. But finding out how satisfied they are, thinking about in your congregation how you can have healthier potlucks, healthier breakfast, healthier snacks, healthier meals for your youth events. So that all ties in together. Family and friends, and this is a big piece here. If your support system, your social environment is unhealthy, they can work on some goals to get healthier. Might seem impossible to do, but what I say is, if you meet someone at church and you really admire them, they're achieving some goals that you want to achieve, you like their attitude, there's something impressive about that person, go invite them to coffee and start building your support system. But making those connections would be a good way to start on some small goals. If you're not satisfied with your social environment, family and friends, you have some things you need to work on, you want to build that, those are just some simple ways to do that. So it starts with this assessment, and then what I usually do, if I see they've scored low in one of these areas, I target those areas and say, is this something that you would like to work on? What would it look like to be just one step better? You know, we're not perfect, so we're not going to be a 10 in all these categories. I mean, a few people are, but I'm not. Mine fluctuates, it ebbs and flows as I go through life stages. Mine changes, it's very fluid, it just changes. But overall, there's usually an area that I need to focus on. So getting them to focus on a simple area, then getting them to focus on some simple steps that they can take. And make sure that the steps are attainable, make sure they're well defined, putting a time limit on there, and make sure that it's something that they really want to do, that they create their own small goals for a healthier model for healthy living. So I'm just going to end with a devotion. And this is from James 13 through 16. Is any one of you in trouble? He should pray. Is anyone happy? Let him sing songs of praise. Is any one of you sick? He should call the elders of the church to pray over him and anoint him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well. The Lord will raise him up. If he has sinned, he will be forgiven. Therefore confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of the righteous man is powerful and effective. Health promotion has its roots in Greek antiquity, going back to the 4th century BC. So They were the first to break that illness was not a supernatural thing, that it was spiritual, that actually engaging in healthy behaviors helped you to have healthy outcomes. So you were able to maintain your health and also fight illness. So from there, health promotion developed, became more important in the 40s, in the 1940s, so it was developing more interest. And the governments were relating to the fact that a healthy people is something that they wanted to focus on. And so the health of the population is really considered a national asset. And we have something called Healthy People 2020. So that really projects over the next 10 years goals for our country to develop healthier actions and healthier behaviors. So another piece of healthy people is called compressed morbidity. So what's happening in our country is we are living longer, and we're living longer sustained on medication. We might not be living as full as we could. So engaging in those healthy actions keeps us healthier for a longer period of time. So that way, when it's closer to our time that we die, hopefully we only have a compressed amount of morbidity where we're dealing with a lot of medication, hospitalization. So instead of living longer and where our health is just declining and we're taking more medication, getting our population to live healthier and fuller, and then when it is time for us to die, it's more of a compressed period of time. So that's really one of the goals of Healthy People 2020. But it also gives us a framework of how to build our health prevention programs. So there's a lot of good information in there. Longevity is something that we have to work for, and this is just an important message that we have to give our congregations. Sitting back, just doing what we want, it's not going to come easy. So living a healthier lifestyle is going to require getting out and exercising. It's going to require learning about prevention of disease, prevention of diabetes. It's learning about healthy eating and actually engaging in those behaviors. So it's not something we can do passively, so we're really going to have to encourage our congregations that they're going to have to be active in this and just getting them excited about these healthy actions and engaging in those healthy behaviors. But Healthy People 2020 would be a great resource for you to use with your congregations. And just defining health promotion, according to the World Health Organization, it's based on the positive and inclusive concept of health. Once again, we're tying in the physical, mental, and social and spiritual piece as a critical human right and determinant of the quality of life everyone should have. So it's like everyone should have this right to live healthier and happier lives. So it's a goal and objective. It's enhancing our health, including positive health and enhancement of well-being. So there's a book called Positivity where they actually research how if we have one person speaking negatively in our life, it requires 3 positive statements to lift us up out of that negative statement. So that's actually something I use for health promotion because we have to have a positive mindset. And I teach a smoking cessation class. And so in this class, we talk about speaking positively about your behavior change because a lot of times they feel really demoralized and they're really struggling with this behavior. But as I tell them, in a congregation, you might feel guilty for sitting there being a smoker, but there could be someone sitting next to you that has other issues that are just as important to deal with. I believe in life we all have issues that we need to work on, and that makes me no better or worse than that person that's smoking. And so we all have to work on behavior change. We all have to work on these goals because living long and living well is most likely not going to be a passive process, but it's going to be an active process, and it's going to be the fruit of the effort that we put into it. So health promotion is a process. It's about empowering the individual and community, increasing their control over their decisions. And just as I showed you in the model for healthy living, we let that be a self-assessment. We let them determine where they are on the scale. We let them determine what health goals that they would like to work on. So it's very much about empowering that individual and getting them to tap into their own resources and how they can build on their strengths. So it's really a beautiful and amazing process of how people change for the better and how they improve their health and improve their lives. So let's consider health promotion from different perspectives. Some cultures think that having a little extra BMI is a healthy thing, and that if they lost weight to be in the actual healthy range of body mass index, that they would be too skinny and that they would need a little meat on their bones. So you might hear people in the congregation talking about that, and really that can be a real cultural influence where losing weight to where they're healthy is not viewed as what's really good for them, what's normal for them. Something that other families may have, whenever they have a celebration, it's always about the party, it's always about the food, about cake. Anytime they gather with friends, there's always a meal, maybe an unhealthy meal. And then there's also just some cultural considerations. Some cultures, people are afraid of the doctor. I've heard people tell their story about, oh, I've got this lump, but I don't want to go to the doctor. I'm afraid of what he's going to tell me. And I honestly have heard this story over and over and over. But if we can work on the intervention piece, where we're teaching them to kind of overcome some of those fears, so that they find that going to the doctor is a good thing, and prevention is a good thing, and early intervention is a good thing, versus waiting and hiding, kind of closing their eyes and being in fear. So kind of working with, depending on what culture that we're dealing with, being aware of those cultural differences that may be arising with, that are barriers to health prevention, and addressing those things. So it may take creating some supportive environment. So maybe if you have someone share their story about surviving breast cancer. I just had a coworker that shared her story with me, and I asked her to share it with more people, because we want people to have an earlier intervention, and it's someone among us that's sharing their story. So maybe a support group, maybe someone sharing their story. Maybe as a group, something you can do. I went to a Sunday school group that was a walking group, and they did a little health promotion. We walked together, and then we did a little prayer time at the end. So that's really, I thought that was a really creative way of incorporating wellness into our congregations, into our church, and it's requiring us to think outside of the box. We might not be wearing our pretty dresses and shoes to church that day, so that it would require us dressing differently. So really making those cultural changes. You might want to work on some of your policies at your church to kind of change things a little bit to kind of enhance the culture. I know at Church Health, some things that we've done culturally, we have only healthy vending machines. We have no Coke machines whatsoever. We provide fruit baskets for our staff, and whenever we have an event, we still might have cake to celebrate, but we have it in smaller portions, and then we'll have some other healthier options to choose from. So it's really about balance, and I didn't know how I was going to feel about them taking away the vending machines, but once they did that and I got it, I realized I really like that we did that. I like that we were the group that made those changes. So as a culture, we all learn how to change together. So it might take working on some policies. And as I mentioned already, focusing on prevention first by maybe getting some people to share their stories, but also empowering the individual. So maybe they are afraid to go to the doctor, working on some of those barriers, but also helping them to learn how to handle a doctor's appointment. I know if sometimes I've gone to a doctor and I have questions, and I go and the doctor's busy, and then they walk out, and then I feel like, well, I didn't really get addressed what needed to be addressed, what was concerning me. So teaching them how to advocate for themselves and empower themselves. I always say write down 3 of the most important questions you want to ask the doctor. and write them on a piece of paper. And when you go in, you can even hand that piece of paper to the doctor as a contract so that they can see what you need to ask and they have to answer before they walk out the door. And then making sure that you write down those answers or have someone with you to write down those answers for you. But teaching them how to advocate for themselves, how to take better care of themselves, how not to be so afraid. And you might already know some of those things already, but that's just from my personal experience of being a health coach in the clinic and stories that I've heard. So empowering the individual, you might want to work on developing some coalitions to advocate for change. Also just knowing what's in the community, building your community resources and your community connections. So hey, that lady at Church Health, she teaches smoking cessation classes for free. So I can refer our people to her, or I can ask her to come and speak at one of our groups. So really building those community connections is key. And of course, teaching healthy lifestyles with nutrition and exercise, supporting their healthy choices, developing a healthier culture, and just being a resource. You're an amazing resource for the congregations. So they can come and ask you. Maybe they are afraid of the doctor, but maybe they can come and ask you first. You're providing an amazing resource for congregations to be able to break down some of those barriers and break down some of that fear they have with connecting. And really, if the congregation's doing it, if the congregation's on board, if you have the support of the leadership, the congregation is likely to follow. So you're the leader, and they're watching you and how you lead and how you encourage them to connect with their physician and connect with the community, and practice those healthy actions, practice meal planning. But they will follow.